All right, it's time for our guest. I told you she was coming. Kate Chapman is here to talk about a book.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Kate?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to town.
Thank you.
You're obviously in town for the holidays.
Yes.
Right? And here with your husband?
Yes.
Although he says he's just here to watch.
That's right, but maybe we'll get him on the mic if we have to.
Well, there's a free mic right there, and it's on. So
He's
we'll
got
get him on
lots
the
to
mic.
say.
He's got lots to say. Get on there. Start talking. But your book, A Pixie's Prescription, a fun toolkit for a feel-better life. You're going to be at Paper and Ink on Friday.
Yes.
Signing copies of this book.
Yes, from 10 to 12:30, answering any questions, telling stories, just catching up with people, whatever people want to do.
Well, we're going to talk about the book today, but let's first start. You and I were just talking off the air about being. I got here about 20 years ago, but you left about 25.
Yep.
And you headed out. And let's get a little synopsis of what your last 25 years has been like.
Okay, so after graduating from Mohawk in 1988, I went to Boston University to study music education and opera primarily. Mm-hmm. And I did that because I knew I wanted to go to New York and do Broadway, but I had been advised by Phil Reno, who grew up here in Tiffin, and he was my piano teacher, and he was working on Broadway, that I should go get my very great classical training that would save me for my whole life, and then conquer Broadway. And I followed his advice, and when I moved to New York in 1992, I started auditioning and doing theater all over the place, and now I have 5 Broadway shows under my belt, and I was Mrs. Claus for the Radio City Christmas Spectacular for 5 years.
Wow.
And a bunch of other stuff.
Well, then I've probably seen that.
Yes, probably.
That's cool. I didn't know I had seen somebody that I'd eventually meet. How about that? And you've graced the stage at the Ritz Theater when I was working there. I remember that when Marvin Hamlisch was here.
Yeah, many times, actually. I grew up doing community theater with the Ritz Players, some of my favorite memories in life.
Of course.
And then when I did Sweet Smell of Success on Broadway, and I met my husband in the out-of-town tryout, and that was where I met Marvin Hamlisch as well. And Marvin was talking about coming to Tiffin to do a concert. And my father said, ask him about that concert. And so I said, hey, Marvin, you're going to my hometown. Did you know that? And he said, it's mine too, and that I was born in Mercy Hospital. And
we got to look into that.
Right,
that one's just bizarre to me.
It's the most random thing ever. And so then he said, well, since it's both of our hometowns, why don't we perform together? And so we got to share that stage together, and it was glorious. And
yeah, it was a wonderful show.
Thank you.
Wonderful show.
A wonderful memory.
But we've gone from Broadway to writing a book.
Yeah. How did that happen?
How did that happen?
Right. Because, see, I had this Broadway career that everybody wanted. You know, I'd done 5 Broadway shows, and, you know, I was getting, people were talking to me about the next one I was going to do. And, you know, I had kind of a following with different casting directors and producers. And then I was miserable, though, physically, and I realized that I just was really not well. And part of that was I was 100 pounds overweight, and doing the shows at 100 pounds overweight was taxing. The decks are often steel, you know, hard on your knees, joints, whatever, but adding 100 extra pounds made my job really difficult. So I started to lose weight thinking that, you know, there were a number of reasons why I wanted to do it, but I didn't know that that the weight was part of what was helping other diseases in my life run rampant. And I'd been sick my whole life, so I didn't see the corollary between the two, but the weight wasn't causing the diseases, but how I was contributing to the weight was. And so once I started to lose the weight and to ravel that back for myself, the diseases started to disappear. And then people started to ask me about it. And then I started to speak about it. And then I started to write about it. And then everybody said, well, why don't you write a book? And so I did.
But let's be clear that it's not a weight loss book.
It's not a weight loss book. It's a book about 14 aspects of life that when I keep those in mind, I stay healthy. And those are things like curiosity and play and relationships and social life and home cooking and exercise. And you can read about all 14 of them in the books. But there are different aspects of our life that if we don't keep those nourished and healthy, then we start to have disease in certain spaces, whether it's mental or physical or emotional, we start to wither.
It's all about balance.
Yeah.
You got to keep everything in balance.
Yeah.
I'm completely and totally unbalanced.
Most of us are. I mean, and I think that that's one of the conversations that we need to have is to be like, okay, you're unbalanced today. Do you want to be more balanced? And if you do, can I help support you? And if you don't, can I just support you in wanting to stay where you are? There's no right answer with it. And that's part of this too, is that I didn't want to have a weight loss book where it's like, eat this, don't eat this, because we're so individual. and we all need different things. We came from different places. We have different makeups that got us here. And so it's about looking about what individually we need and not collectively me telling you what you should do, because I don't know. I barely know what I should do.
All right, we're going to step aside, take a break, listen to some music. We'll be back with Kate Chapman and talk more about her book and her life and what she's doing back here in town.